Dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yup, what's good, original crew, man? We're back, baby. Yes, we're back. Today's body count. Man discovers his husband's sickening secret. What you think the secret could be? It is body count, but what you think the secret could possibly be, see?
I have no clue. I will hope that it's not a person you got and you ain't know.
Like a body inside the home?
I will hope not, but I mean...
Or that you... What about a cereal?
Or you got somebody like that's just been down there. I mean, not down there. Well, I'm thinking of a basement or something. I don't know why. But you would think that no, because if y'all stay together, y'all married, you will go... You will hope. You will go and...
No.
Why not?
Remember that situation that happened overseas? The man, he had kidnapped, was it his daughter? And had her in the basement all the time, and the mom said
it was because of how the house was made. It was like one of those...
She knew about the basement.
It was where he had her at. He was like, this is off limits.
She never went in the basement.
Because he was like, this is off limits. You can't... He was
this
very controlling.
This is my house, though.
Yeah, I know, but...
And he was
abusive to her, too, though, remember? So that was a whole nother situation, but...
He could be abusive to him. That's his husband.
We'll see, Chad. I don't want to...
But also, kids. You gotta throw that in the picture.
Yeah, let's just see.
Hey, make sure you check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go. If you want the first part, you gotta do it. Check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's visuals,
like it with a thumbs up.
Hey, man, let's check it out. Let's see what we got cooked up for us today, man. Let's get it.
The guy that I was having decided to take off with my kill.
I killed Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero.
Do I look like a black-haired, black-eyed gimp?
You had no intention of keeping him here forever as a slave in your basement.
Once they're done, you just keep them.
On Christmas Day 2019, a Michigan couple grows worried when their 25-year-old son doesn't show up for the family breakfast. Police launch an investigation that will soon take them into some of the darkest corners of the underground fetish community, where violence and recreation go hand.
See, you ain't looking. I know you writing, but no, you ain't see the paddle, the whips, and all that. You were looking down. I'm telling you.
Of the underground fetish community, where violence and recreation go hand in hand. The detectives are now tasked to uncover the truth. Was an unhappy young man searching for someone who would release him from his misery for good? Or did his search for pleasure drive him into the clutches of a...
When he said Kevin... No, I'm saying... When he said Kevin Bacon, I'm thinking... You know about Kevin Bacon? You know who Kevin Bacon is? I'm thinking he was talking... I was like, is he delusional? Because I'm thinking he talking about this Kevin Bacon. I'm like, you killed Kevin Bacon? Kevin Bacon ain't dead, is he? I'm like, Kevin Bacon alive. But I think he's talking about this. I'm not thinking he's talking about,
Lord.
There ain't nothing wrong.
Misery for good. Or did his search for pleasure drive him into the clutches of a depraved cannibal?
So you would have taken more of his body and put it in the dehydrator?
Absolutely.
It's late in the afternoon of December 25th, 2019, when Flint Township police officers respond to a missing persons report in Swartz Creek, Michigan. The parents of 25-year-old hairdresser Kevin Richard Bacon expected him to show up at their house at 9 a.m. that morning for Christmas breakfast with the family, but he never appeared. He's not answering his phone, and no one has seen or heard from him since the previous day. However, the parents provide information that give police a head start. They tell investigators that their son is gay and has been regularly meeting up with men through various online dating apps. In fact, his roommate reports that Kevin was headed out for just such a date on Christmas Eve. Police have no way of knowing at this point if Kevin's date is related to his disappearance, but there have been several recent incidents involving online hookups in this area.
Next to itself, he's running down the road, trying to get an address or a mailbox or something, going kind of hysterical.
One of these recent incidents happened only a month ago, on November 25th. Michigan police responded to a report about a young man running down the road wearing only a leather kilt and an older man chasing him down. This young man managed to get to a resident's house in the neighborhood to call 911. And if the details of his run through the area are strange, his story of what happened immediately prior is even more bizarre.
How far down? Kind of hot, thank you. You want that? Gave it now. White break. Story. Took all your clothes off. Look at you. Nothing like that happened. No. So it's trying, but okay. And I was having something. How do you know this guy? How long have you known him? How long have you known him? How did you meet him?
The caller admits that this started as a consensual meetup, not the first one he's had with the man. However, this encounter soon turned frightening. Once the man chained him up in his secluded basement, he told the caller that he was going to keep him captive. The moment the caller found an opportune moment, he fled the house to get to safety and call the police.
Let me ask, I'm asking you a straight up question, my man. Are you looking to press charges for what happened today? Okay, because here's the thing, is that if we start doing a bunch of investigations and he says, yeah, you know what, man, this guy told me he was into it, and all this, well, hold on, let me just explain this. And we end up doing all kinds of stuff, and you're not willing to do anything about this, then we kind of don't really have a whole lot of any leg to stand on at that point, you know what I mean? So what are you looking to have done out of it today? Okay.
Could the details of this strange incident have anything to do with the disappearance of Kevin Bacon? Police aren't sure yet, but there are definitely some similarities. The young man from November made plans with his alleged assailant online, and that's where Kevin met his date as well. Kevin's roommate says he left the house at around 5:23 p.m. on Christmas Eve to meet the man, which was also recorded on the home's Nest camera footage. She tells police she hasn't heard from Kevin since 6:11 p.m. when he sent this text. Okay, well, I'm going to be out for a while, actually. This is going to be fun. He's inviting more men. Married, miss. Not sure when I'll be back. Probably will be out late. So if Mom calls you, I'm sleeping. Ha ha. The circumstances surrounding Kevin's sudden disappearance are concerning for several reasons. For one, Kevin's parents admit to police that their son has tried to take his own life in the past. Could the story of an online hookup merely be a pretense to get out of the house and away from anyone who might prevent him from trying again? Or did he run into someone with suspicious intent, like that young man from last month? Police in November did end up speaking to the older gentleman involved in that dispute, and while he denied any wrongdoing, something seemed strange about his behavior.
Hello. Why don't you come on out? Oh, sure. What can I help you with? Well, I think you probably know why we're here, right? Well, yeah, the goofy guy that I was having with decided to take off with my kill. Okay. Well, can you put the dog away so we can talk a little bit more about this? Because he's telling us one side of the story, and we want to get yours. Went over to his place a couple of months ago, and then he contacted me and he says, hey, come on over, and pick me up and I'll come out. I said, well, I got some tile that I need to. Okay. I said, then we can play a little bit. And so he came up, I picked him up, came over, followed the tile, played around a little bit. Next thing I know, boom, he left his pile of clothes right here. He took my stilts. He's telling me that you wouldn't let him go. You chained him up? Well, I got chains of stuff, but you have he could have left at any time. Okay. Did he ask you to leave? What? Did he ask you to leave? No. He never asked to leave, and you had him chained up in the basement? Well, he was here
Wow.
today.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah. Do I have chains? Yeah. So I got a sling.
Was this just all like a bunch of role-playing type stuff? I mean,
Bingo.
all right.
Exactly.
So you had no intention of keeping him here forever as a slave in your basement?
No.
Okay.
You know, I've got too much going on for something like that.
All right.
The man tells the police that the day was spent between two consenting adults, and he's perplexed as to what happened to make the other guy run off with his leather kilt.
And the other guy saying he ain't gonna press charges, ain't nothing they can really do.
Yeah.
Now it's just his word versus your word, and at this point, move on.
We've seen one another a couple of times.
How many is a couple?
Well, I met him at Walmart one day, and then he looked me up and found me and started, went back and forth on the internet for a while, just chatting back and forth. Then, it's like, so he kept he was pursuing my account.
Okay.
Not a matter of me looking up him, and I'm looking at him, okay, fine. It's like, what the heck? Do you want to play for a day? I'll play. No big deal.
All right.
But as far as him going, that's crazy, I can't explain that at all.
And everything you're telling me, everything was consensual.
Everything was consensual.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Mark.
M-A-R-K?
Yeah.
Middle name?
David.
And your last?
Latunski.
With two conflicting stories about this encounter and the purported victim declining to press charges, there's not much more the troopers can do to investigate. They file their reports and move on, not knowing that the disappearance of Kevin Bacon would lead them back to Mark Latunski much sooner than they thought. Late on Christmas Day, Kevin's parents find their son's Saturn Aura in the parking lot of the Family Dollar. After opening the car with a spare key, investigators find $80 in cash, Kevin's credit and debit cards, and his driver's license. Even more concerning is what they find in the back seat: a grocery sack containing the clothing he was last seen wearing, his phone, and his keychain. The car key and fob have also been removed from the keychain. The following day, a thorough sweep of the strip mall property with a canine unit, a community search party, and a helicopter search produced no results. But despite 2 days of frustrating dead-end leads, this investigation is about to take a sharp turn. With some help from the Michigan State Police, detectives retrieved messages from Kevin's account on a dating app from the night he went missing. He was corresponding with someone calling themselves Olikos, and they made plans to meet up on Christmas Eve in front of Family Dollar, the very store where Kevin's family found his car. Using facial recognition software, police put the Olikos profile to a real name: Mark David Latunski.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Mark.
Troopers head out to Mark's house again, but he says he doesn't know anyone named Kevin Bacon. Nonetheless, they thoroughly search the house and find nothing amiss until they go into the basement. There they encounter a disquieting sight that sends a chill down their spines. Behind a partially hidden room, they find long chains attached to a pulley system in the ceiling.
We was talking in there earlier about basements, hidden rooms, but man discovers his husband's. He got a husband too? Or he got an ex-husband? I don't freaking know. At this point, this motherfucker's weird.
Yeah.
Like, and I know this is like some 50 Shades of Grey weird. Some people are into this shit. It just is very.
It's a difference in, like, two parties like being into it, whatever the case, y'all consent to doing.
But it seems like the other parties are into it and consenting to it. But it seems as though it's getting out of hand, and he's not, So what's up with the beyond my pay grade?
But that's basically what I was about to say.
What I just said? My bad.
And the naked body of a dead man hanging by his feet. They immediately handcuff Mark Latunski and put him in the back of a patrol vehicle as they continue to process the horrifying scene inside. From their information and photographs of Kevin Bacon, they can quickly tell that they've found their missing person. But before they proceed, police notice another disturbing detail. A part of Kevin's body has been mutilated. While the search for Kevin Bacon has come to an end,
he literally has him hanging up like he's like an animal, a pig or something. You know what I'm saying? See, what the fuck?
And you know what's so sad? Because he went out.
Say it.
I was just about to say, I don't know what you think I was about to say, but I'm just saying, he went out, and he told his roommate, he happy on the up and up, I'm about to go have some fun, about to whatever, not thinking, that this will happen. Although you don't really know him like that, but not thinking that something like this, will happen to you. That's the sad part about it, because in your head you thinking that, this is just, innocent fun. We're about to, I'm about to go do it, whatever. And
also, I'm wondering, has he been...
And it ends like this.
Been with him before?
I don't know.
Also, I thought you was...
Because it gives me that he doesn't... Oh, I don't know if this is his first time or what. I don't know that. But I'm wondering, does he, have them come over a couple times, they interact, you at their house, they at your house, you make them comfortable, so the next time they come over, their guard is down, and they're not thinking really any much of it, it's just this, we did this last time, it was cool, I went home, everything was good, but all along, you always planned this, but it's just this little thing that you have to do to get the person, I don't know.
So where I thought you was going is, I wouldn't necessarily say sad, but it's crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, one situation could have prevented this. One decision could have prevented all this, and it's just a decision a person charges.
Well, yeah, I mean.
And I'm not trying to oh man,
But you know something? That's not necessarily true. It is true to an extent, but it's not like he was going to do all of this. It ain't like he would have been in there forever, or it would have prevented him from not doing something, or he would have posted, what is it, bond, bail, whatever, bail, and been able to, because it just happened a month later. So,
but who knows? He probably had to who knows how much the bail would have been. He would have sat in there for a month.
Yeah, I mean, I do wish that he would have pressed charges, but hey, I'm not gonna.
Because you pressing charges can possibly prevent someone else becoming a victim, and that's on
possibly, yeah, possibly.
Body has been mutilated. While the search for Kevin Bacon has come to an end, the inquiry into what happened here has only just begun. In the meantime, Mark Latunski sits alone in the cop car, contemplating his fate.
Didn't take him long, did it? You want to treat him like a homicide.
Huh?
Mark will spend quite a long time in the back of this car as the police carefully investigate the house. But he won't spend all of it alone, and it soon becomes clear to cops on the scene that it will not be easy to get straight answers to even the simplest questions.
Mark, I'm Sergeant Verdant, State Police, okay? Do you know what's going on? Do you know why you're in the back of this car?
Yes, I know why I'm back in the back of this car.
Okay, well, I just want to let you know I got my detective en route. My detective's probably going to want to talk to you, okay? So.
That's fine.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to let you know.
And then once I talk to him, how am I going to get back home?
Well, let's get stage one first, okay? Let's get the detective out here.
Absolutely. And then I can explain to him all the things that you guys don't know.
Okay.
And then I can come back home.
Yeah, because we want to know your side of the story, okay?
Absolutely.
But we'll wait for the detective to get out here. But I just wanted to at least let you know.
You got a body hanging up.
I understand.
I think you can come back home.
How do you pronounce your last name? Latunski?
That's the name that you're going to have me in your system as, yes.
Okay.
What you mean by that?
What? What does that mean?
Do I look like a black-haired, black-eyed gimp?
Does he have a history?
What do you mean?
Latunski.
Oh, is that means?
Yes. The Latunskis are all black-haired, black-eyed gimps.
If the cop in the front seat isn't quite sure what to make of this declaration, it's hardly the last curious thing Mark will say in the back of the car.
I went to Battle Creek, picked up this guy, had his leg amputated below the knee. And he was the one who helped me decorate the palm tree.
Oh, really?
You want to know what electricity has done for me?
What's that?
It allowed my next-door neighbor to shove arsenic into a hole and put it into my well and every well downstream for 2 miles. Oh, my leg just dropped off.
Which one?
Well, the one that I wear on my... But you don't know the facts. And the facts are, how do you turn a black-haired, black-eyed boy who was born a cripple into a blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy who's Norwegian?
Check gloves.
Yeah, I wouldn't get out the car.
Yeah, I'm like,
He know what he doing.
Get the gloves. You don't want to touch anything that's what touches it. Nothing happens here in Shiawassee.
While Mark's collection of odd conversational subjects may seem almost random, he brings many of them with him to the interrogation. He's particularly interested in sharing the backstory of his name, which is apparently a window into a complex family history.
That is not my legal name.
Oh, it isn't.
No. That is a stolen identity. Mark David Latunski was last, or at least the last record that I have of Mark David Latunski was 1972. He was born in 1969. He has black hair, he has brown eyes, and he was born a cripple. So, what happened to Mark David Latunski? I have no idea. Okay. However, all of the people that I grew up with knew that I'm not Mark David Latunski. And they just failed to tell me. All I know is that I'm sitting here as the only living Thomas of Wales that I've been able to find. So, to what extent that makes one iota of difference to why we're talking, I don't know.
It's a question that the detectives have perhaps pondered themselves by this point, since they are, after all, looking less at Mark's family records and more at any information he can give them that might explain how Kevin ended up dead in his basement.
okay.
All the same, the police will speak to various people in Mark's life over the coming days, and through these interviews they will learn that Mark's fixations on his own mistaken identity are nothing new. They first speak with his ex-wife, Emily.
It was at my son's birthday party, and he came out with all these theories that he wasn't actually his mother's son, he was his mother's brother, and there was a family fortune that he was supposed to get, and there was people watching him. And I tried for 2 years to get him to, he was hospitalized for twice in the stress unit, tried for 2 years to get him to stay on medication and just, to get him help, and he just refused.
Mark will give detectives every gruesome detail they want to know before this night is through. For now, however, they want to get a better understanding of who he is.
What do you do? You said you mentioned you work. What do you do for a living? Well, right now I'm doing construction. What I have done for a living is had my trust funds raided by people who were pretending to employ me and giving me back my own money.
The detectives quickly realize
Yes, man.
Boy, that mother.
that getting any coherent background information on Mark will be a chore, but he eventually acknowledges that he spent much of the last 20 years employed as a chemist at 2 prominent companies in Michigan. However, for the past several months, he's been working odd jobs, some of which seem pretty odd indeed for someone with a master's degree in chemistry.
I was looking for honest work. I started trying to pick up odd jobs where I would do something. Put up someone's drywall. No go. And so finally, using the name Vilcus, I put an ad on RentMan, and man, if I can give a massage and somebody's going to pay me, that's more honest money than what I was doing. If a man's going to pay me to rub him down, fine.
So how long have you been doing that?
It was probably I started it in about April of this year.
So like massages?
Just massages. It's like, you know what? I'll spend time with you. Man can't guarantee. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So, hey, guess what? I can't sell that because that's not the way the world works. But you want to spend your time with me? Boom. Here's your price. And I'll have a good time with it, and you will fuck.
Mark's sudden career detour is hard to account for, even with odd stories of trust funds and hidden conspiracies. After being with his ex-wife and 4 children for a decade, his sudden interest in men has its own history that his ex-wife explains to the detectives.
I found a mail on the computer, and I asked him about it, and he said, I just want to make sure I measure up. Just want to know how I measure up. And I, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it.
As time went on, however, Emily began to realize there was more to it than that.
He admitted to me that he was cheating with men, cheating on me with men, and I found out that he had been, meeting men when he was traveling and after work. And so we did counseling for a year, and that didn't go anywhere. And he was still meeting men, and so I filed for divorce. I said, I'm finished.
Mark's first marriage ended in 2013, leading to a messy divorce and child visitation disputes, some of which involved the police.
It was in August. In the summer, he refused to bring them back. He was supposed to meet me, but he didn't tell me. We were supposed to meet in the morning to exchange the kids, and he didn't show up. So I called him, and at this point, he'd already called CPS on me 3 times. And so I called him, and he said, I'm not bringing it back. And I said, you need to bring them back. He says, I'm not going to. And if you don't like it, you can call the police.
Emily did call the police, which ultimately resulted in Mark getting arrested for parental kidnapping. The charge was later dropped, but it nonetheless was one of the first serious brushes Mark had with the law.
Mm-hmm.
Detectives proceed to inquire about another incident that brought state troopers out to his home a month ago in November.
Back in November, the troopers came out because there was somebody who ran from their house. What I'm saying is, if that was a consensual act, at what point or what caused him to flee?
He was freely walking around the house. There was no problem whatsoever. I in fact, had taken my eyes completely off of him. It's like, you know what? Like, if you want to sit the upstairs, go ahead, sit the upstairs. Go. Do what you want. It was interesting that at that point, and I don't know exactly what is going on inside of his head, but he had full ability to get his own clothes. They were right there. But he went to one of the most expensive pieces of leather articles that I own and put that on. My personal opinion is that he found the nicest piece of leather where he shimmied into it and he was going to walk with it, and if he got out of sight where I didn't know where he was, boom, he could call somebody and say, look, and then go home with it.
Mark dismisses the November incident and claims it was a matter of personal theft. no matter how much the other man's accusations might be similar to what seems to have happened with Kevin. Detectives are taking nothing for granted, however, and they use the subject of Mark's apparent willingness to take money from men online to circle back to their current investigation.
Did Kevin pay you for your time? Like when you were, did he? So
No.
Could you have mentioned massages were $200 an hour and then 15 for a day?
Look.
So that was nothing?
In this situation, it was there no money.
Gotcha. Okay.
The question, of course, is what exactly the situation was that brought Kevin Bacon into Mark's company on December 24th. And at last, investigators will hear Mark's version of how an online date turned tragic. A story designed to paint him as a man of compassion and honor, and not as a brutal murderer. He starts by describing their initial introduction on the app.
We chatted for a while. He described the things that he wanted. I did what I could to bring those things about. And after we sat and made an agreement about what was going to happen, we made the agreement, and he was supposed to disappear, be gone.
According to Mark, Kevin sought him out to spend a night that would culminate in mercy killing.
Okay, let's say that the police have a problem with it. I said, the police have a problem with it, then what? They throw me in jail. Or they try to. I said, I guess I'll just have to deal with that. But you know as well as I do that in our society, although we say, a man can just go, does our society really allow that? No. And what it leaves behind is all kinds of I'm going to say things for his family that a man doesn't want to leave. Now, the things that I set up for him and plan to do for him in that regard would do something for his family that would make it easier. But that agreement between him and I really shouldn't have anything to do with anything but him or I.
The idea that Kevin may have sought out a stranger on the internet to help him end his life is almost unimaginable. But there was a possibility. In an interview she later did with a media outlet, Kevin's roommate said that after watching the hanging scene in the movie A Star is Born, Kevin was, quote, out of it. The next day he overdosed on pills and had to have his stomach pumped. Did these ideations lead him to ask for Mark's help? To find out, police need to hear the story right from the beginning.
When did he come to your house?
I picked him up. We physically met in Swartz Creek. And that was when because he had given me details of what he wanted. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what. I will bring.
And it's crazy how, all these people, you make sure you see to pick them up and bring them back to your house. Because it's because your house is out, out. They don't have a way to get back to where they,
Right.
Easy escape.
Yeah.
Because now his car, Kevin left his car at, a Dollar General, they said, at a store. His key,
I feel like it's
wallet.
a form of control or dominance or something like that.
So you can make sure you can control the whole situation,
All of the things that you would need so that you can see them. I said, I will lay them out in front of you. I says, then I'll step back. I says, you need to decide. You need to decide because I'm not going to force you.
Mark describes that Kevin decided to change his clothes in the Family Dollar parking lot and insists everything was entirely under Kevin's control.
What he wants is what he wants is what he wants. Sure. But at that point, I said, you know what? I'm not going to put these on you. I says, take what you have, take it off, put it in this bag. And he says, you know what? Can I text a friend and say, you know what? I'm just gonna be out, and you know, whatever we blabbered about. And I say blabbered just because I said, you know what? You say whatever you want to say. And he says, okay, now that I've said it, I'm gonna turn my phone off.
The detectives now wonder if Kevin really knew what he was in for that night. Or is this Mark's clever attempt to paint the reality of this obscene situation in a more favorable light?
And I says, look, you know, this way you're leaving everything behind, and it's like, done. And then at that point he says, okay, I'm ready. I went around and I shut the trunk, and then I put, you know, he gave me the key so that I could lock the car. I put his bag in the back. I locked the car.
You locked his vehicle?
I locked his vehicle.
So his stuff is in his vehicle.
His stuff was in his vehicle.
And then does he stay in the back of your van then?
And he stayed in the back of my van.
Okay, and then you leave the parking lot.
And then I left the parking lot.
Okay.
And then we went back to the house.
Mark's story, though utterly bizarre, is thoroughly detailed. This is why it's perhaps a bit surprising when the detectives stump him with what should be an easy follow-up question.
Do you know what you did with the keys for the car?
The keys were... See, he had the keys at first. He gave them to me.
That's just a minor detail. I'm just curious.
I don't know. But in any case, we went back to the house.
Though Mark can't quite remember what became of Kevin's car keys, he can remember what happened when they returned to his house. And though many of those explicit details have been redacted from the interrogation video, enough remains to get a sense of their evening, or at least Mark's account of it.
You go to the house, there's activity that occurs in the kitchen and then downstairs. And then...
Yeah, I mean, there's as far as I would consider it, the scene started, you know, when he said, yes, I'm in, let's start this.
Blindfold off.
Blindfold on, blindfold off, change positions. You know the purpose of flogging, right?
Don't know the purpose of it, but...
Okay, well, what it does is it brings it activates the blood vessels in the skin so that the sensations of touch and feel are heightened because the nerves are activated.
Yes.
So you know, like that. So it was through an entire, you know, each of the different movements that went through a different scenario.
Mark's description here directly references an area in his basement that investigators have seen and photographed. Characterized by boards in the shape of an X, the area stands in front of the strange dirt pit in the middle of the floor. This ominous area was apparently one of the last things Kevin saw before he died. And now the detectives want to know how that came to be.
So then, exactly how did Kevin say, what led to Kevin's death? He was telling you specifically what?
Well, I mean, it was it was a fairly long conversation. It's difficult.
So yeah, so he's telling you previously, and then what you're saying is he asked you to do that for him.
Okay. Yes. You know, he was talking about how undignified, how horrible sometimes we let people die in that way, how they drag out. He actually came to tears, and we've talked about, you know, several things. You know, what was I going to do? And part of it was the process of turning them into something that would grow tulips for his family. He says, but my family will never know that it's me. I says, no. Tulips are starvation food. They'll know that they'll have tulips. Do you want them to know that that's something that you're giving them? And he says, no, it's not something that I want them to know. Is this something that you want them to know? And he says, no.
As outlandish as Kevin's plans for his remains may sound, this is far from the first weird detail that Mark has shared today. Indeed, in talking to Jamie, the man Mark married shortly after divorcing his wife, they realize that strange statements have become a big part of who their suspect is.
Are you guys still in a relationship at this
No,
point?
well, we're still legally married,
Yeah.
but we're separated. I mean, I got out of there because he was starting to just say a lot of very unusual things, things that just didn't make sense. And then he started just within this last year that the neighbor was contaminating our well. And I was like, why would he do that? It didn't make any sense to me that our neighbor would start contaminating our well. But he said, well, they are. You can't drink it. You can't bathe it. You know, I'd wake up and he'd be over me saying that I was a gray, green-eyed tribe leader and that when the world turned upside down that my people were going to need me to lead them again and that he was somehow the leader of the North. And I was oozing black toxins. He took me to Dr. Gomez to tell the doctor that I was secreting this toxin when I was sleeping.
And that was all brand new since the end of summer, beginning of fall.
And that was since his being fired in February from his job.
Jamie may pinpoint the beginning of Mark's mental decline to this year, but others say it goes back quite a bit further.
He had a lot of, he believed people were watching him and all those, but believed that my brother and I poisoned as well. Because my brother's a plumber and he did all of the work on the house for the plumbing. And so, but other than that, he was never a danger to himself or others that I believed. I got him to go in again and then he came back out and he was in the basement the second time. So yes, he was hospitalized before I moved out the second time because he had medication that he filled again, but he wasn't taking it because I was counting them to make sure he was taking it. And I discovered that he wasn't taking it.
When he was hospitalized the second time, was it at the same facility?
Yes. And I believe that was the time he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
And that would have been maybe in 2012?
Damn, for 7 years.
But a history of mental illness did not necessarily mean that Mark's story is a fantasy of his own concoction. Perhaps it only helps explain why he thought that it made sense to provide Kevin with this kind of assistance in the first place.
I've never done this before. I know that I've never done this before.
Okay, so what did you do?
Well, after talking to him in multiple ways, that was when I says, well, I could slit your throat. Here's the knife. I could do it that way, and I couldn't do it. I says, I don't know if that would be painless. And we debated it, all of the different ways. I said, I have a sword upstairs, but it's dull. It wouldn't work. I was afraid I would hurt him. I'm not ready. I couldn't do that. I couldn't run the risk of maiming him and having him suffer.
Ultimately, Mark says he decided that a knife would produce the quickest, cleanest result.
Where's the knife now? It is upstairs in, because I cleaned it off, and it is upstairs in the dresser drawer. I think on the right-hand side, top.
Is it a bedroom? Someone's bedroom or your bedroom?
Yes.
The police find the knife, as well as a receipt from Walmart. They go out to the store, where they photograph a knife in the display rack that matches the look and price of the one in Mark's possession. Furthermore, they obtain surveillance video from the store that shows Mark purchasing the weapon that would end Kevin Bacon's life. The knife will surely prove to be valuable evidence in this investigation. But the central question remains, is it a murder weapon? Or is it merely the tool with which Mark ended Kevin's suffering on his request?
It's like, this is what it is. And he looked at it. I mean, we laid together for a while. He asked me to. I did.
I'm sorry, asked you to do what? Just lay with him?
Just lay with him. Just lay with him and hold him. And finally, he says, you know what? I'm ready. I'm on the back side because he's laying on the floor and it would be across the room. And he had his head facing it would be the east wall. And so when I went in, you obviously have on the picture there's the spray that went to the left. There was a fair amount of blood, and I went, I don't want him to suffer. And I went, I can see that. And that was, and then of course it was a matter of doing what I needed to do to complete what I told him I would do. Turn him into something that would produce life.
It soon becomes clear that no matter what the reality of the situation might have been in Mark's house on Christmas Eve, he means to emphasize to the detectives that his greatest concern was minimizing Kevin's suffering.
I need to make sure that this is quick and not drawn out. And so it was then that it's like, okay, let's get this so that he quicker. I was trying to speed it up at that point because he was already unconscious. Okay. But I could tell, because, you could tell he was, in any case, it was the realization of this wasn't enough.
Mark tells the detectives that once he realized that even a direct stab wound to the base of the neck would not be enough to finish the job, he took further measures to ensure Kevin's quick demise.
I saw that it was going longer, and I took his head and I moved it to the side and this way. So it was as much as I could in order to. Whatever it was, it at least initiated another gash that was there wasn't the spray like there was the first time, so it was at least more effective.
Mark's description of the stab wound and the subsequent slitting of Kevin's throat matches what investigators have seen at the crime scene. But while it provides one possible explanation of how Kevin's death came to be, that's all it is at this point. And there are other aspects of Kevin's observable injuries that, sickening as they are, have yet to be addressed. Mark will eventually speak to those as well, but first, he takes the police through the next stage of this morbid evening.
Bro, there's a lot of details. There's a lot of bullshit. This man's, honestly, he constantly showed y'all signs that he was going down a hole that it was like no return. for him. And because he was diagnosed with being schizophrenic, you know what I'm saying? Wife, I wonder, like, with people who do come across those, like, having those mental behaviors, right? If they decide to, can you force them to take the medication?
Like, how would you force a grown person to take medication?
All right, so what I'm saying is, say for instance, you see that they're not taking their medication properly, right? Because the wife had possibly reported it, then they could have admitted him into a psych ward, and in there they force you to take your medication.
Well, she said that I don't know. I don't know if it was after or 2 times, 1 time, but she said something about the mental hospital that she had. I feel like she did all she could do.
No, I'm not.
I'm just saying. I just feel like he a grown man. I do get it. Like, yeah, you could have, but I feel like trying to make sure he stay on his medicine, getting him admitted, getting him checked, getting him diagnosed, all of that. I feel like you do the best you can. With the husband that he married, he started seeing those signs, and he was like, I gotta protect myself. I gotta get up out of here because I don't know what you're capable of. You talking crazy, and I don't have time for it. He was staying by himself. I mean, at that time back then, the wife said she didn't feel like he was, a harm to himself or others at that particular time. But over time, things do get worse when you're not taking your medication and when you're feeding your mental with so much, like, I don't know, whatever you into. So, I mean,
that is true. That is true. At the end of the day, you do gotta make sure you save yourself and you come out on the right end of this whole situation, right?
Yeah.
I stayed with them for quite a while. I mean, and that was very important. And I says, you will not die alone. I says, I won't.
You know, and that, to me, as an outsider looking in, that shows me the type of person you are.
I said, I won't do that.
Absolutely.
I says,
you're a man of your word.
Regardless of what it is, I won't let you die alone.
Yeah.
And
that's very stand up of you. I mean, not a lot of people would do that.
It wasn't easy. Once he was clearly deceased, then I was like, okay, let's get him up as much as I could so that one, what blood there was that was in the sand could go out into the flower bed.
Sure. When you strung him or pulled him so he's suspended, the purpose was so the blood went to the ground.
Right, so the blood would go into the ground and it would be contained rather than, because by that time he was already unconscious and it was just a matter of saying it's done. So it was the after portion of cleaning him up. What I didn't get to yet was to wash him up, clean him up. And, I started to pull the sand out that was there to start to clean it up. But, it was a matter of, it takes a little bit of time to, depending if you ever processed deer.
Sure. Let the blood drain out.
It's the same process.
As shocking as it may be to calmly compare the killing of a human being to the cleaning of a game animal, it's clear by now that Mark feels no remorse or regret about what he's done.
You think Kevin must have at some point talked to him about one.
He confided in him.
Yeah.
And you are now using that, like, okay, well, he told me he was, so I'm just gonna, because my thing is, even with your setup that you got, and you was like, oh, do you want this to be used and give to your family so that they can plant tulips and all of this? Why do you I want to know when he purchased the knife. Like, when did he actually purchase the knife? Or did you just purchase it for yourself or whatever the case may be? Well, with the dirt, like, you just have everything already set up for something. When was all this done?
And that part gives me premeditation. It's the setup. The knife situation, I get where you're going at it with that, but people purchase knives all the time, not necessarily in the process of wanting to commit crime. So.
Oh, I wasn't correlating to you want to commit a crime. I'm just saying since that knife was used to commit a crime,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, was it purchased recently or was it purchased like way before? Because they got them on camera purchasing it. I just wondered when. It was just, I threw that out there, but I wasn't correlating the two. I have a knife. I'm not thinking about committing a crime or whatever the case may be.
Because like I've purchased machetes before as gifts for like my father and other people, other men in my life, right?
Yeah.
Then they go commit acts, and it's like the next day. I didn't purchase this for them to commit those acts. I purchased it because they are outdoorsmen. They work with weeds and stuff like that, so they can be able to utilize it, right? Not on the ground. You get what I'm saying? So, but I do understand the direction you're going with it. I'm just like, when it comes down to the law and like using it as far as that, I don't think the purchase of the knife to me, if I'm on the jury, you telling me, hey, he purchased a knife, I'm like, hey, people can purchase knives in it. You know what I'm saying? From the
I
jury.
only brought it up because they brought it up. But yeah, I got what you're saying.
On the contrary, he appears to view it as an act of kindness and mercy. Indeed, he didn't even keep it a secret.
And even when I was talking to someone, I don't feel that I did anything wrong.
Did you tell anybody else about this other than us?
I did, because part of my culture is that if you have an honorable death, then you have to tell somebody before you pass 3 houses. I did have to tell someone, and even when I talked to him, he says, just call me Kevin Bacon. And I went, okay. I said, if I say that I killed Kevin Bacon, he says, no one's gonna believe you. I says, I could tell anybody, and no one would believe me because of my name. I actually texted before I ever did anything, I went up and I texted a friend who was, and I'm going to say, what's the correct word? Understanding of the situation, because he's a judge advocate in New York, and I sent him a text and I said, you know what, I did this. I says, and I love him. He's my hero. And
I'm sorry, who's your hero?
The person I killed Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero.
It is yet another twist in this grim saga. Mark uses his victim's coincidentally famous name to confess without any fear of repercussions. Indeed, when police finally speak to Mark's friend in New York, he tells them that he hardly gave the unusual text a second thought. After all, such a murder would be headline news all over the world. Is this kind of slyness consistent with the story Mark is telling detectives? Perhaps that question is in the back of their minds as Mark describes how he proceeded in the hours ahead.
I was covered in a little, not covered, but it's like I had some on me. And I looked at it, and it's like I had done what I needed to do, and I could wash this off. Nope, I'm not going to. And at that point, I went upstairs and I crawled into bed, and I just left it.
In a bone-chilling admission, Mark reveals that not only did he refuse to wash Kevin's blood off himself before going to bed, he kept it on even the next day when he went to his husband's house for a Christmas Day gathering.
Shut up.
That's OD weird, bro. He been weird this whole time.
It was middle of the afternoon when I was supposed to go over and meet the other guys on the 25th. And I looked at it and I went, you know what? I'm not. And I left it right on. And I put on what clothing I had. And I went, I'm not going to wash him off.
It's unnerving to realize that just as Kevin Bacon's family was growing anxious about his absence from the Christmas festivities, The man who brought about his death was attending a nude gathering miles away with the blood of their son on his body.
And then people started showing up. Don't know exact times because I was busy, but I want to say sometime in the afternoon, like around 12-ish. Mark didn't get there until after everybody else had, and again...
So Mark was the last one to get there.
Mark was the last one to get there.
About what time do you think that was?
Again, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to say around 1, 2 o'clock.
According to their interviews with other attendees, no one noticed anything out of the ordinary as it pertained to Mark. But the police aren't just interested in the gathering. They're interested specifically in Jamie, whose interactions with Mark continued after that day. Jamie explains that he and Mark went to the gym together on either Thursday, the day after Christmas, or Friday, which would have been only a matter of hours before police showed up at Mark's door. He says that even though he drove Mark home that night, he didn't enter the house and thus had no way of knowing what was hanging from the ceiling of Mark's basement. Under normal circumstances, Jamie might have been able to check his text messages to better frame this timeline. But that is, unfortunately, and perhaps for police, not possible.
I was going through the messages, reading them over, seeing what what was in them, so I could just see if I missed something somewhere then I went to, hold the phone, and next thing you know, they're all deleted because somehow I had touched these phones. I swear to God, they're so sensitive. Touched something to make it go to the delete all, which I never meant to do.
The matter of these deleted texts is not a possibility for police, as they can typically recover all deleted messages.
I was about to say, what type of phone he got? Well, it really don't matter because you can recover it, yeah.
But the crazy thing is, you don't just push one button to delete all your text messages. You have to trigger like multiple things if you want to delete all. You're gonna trigger this, then that trigger that, and then it makes you reconfirm that you want to delete the messages.
Yeah.
So you telling me just subsequently you delete all the messages?
What was in it that you felt the need to hide?
To hide.
Which you're not. I wish y'all understand that y'all are not hiding anything.
But they also can get if there's any messages between him and Mark, they can get those messages from Mark's end. Mm-hmm. So on that end, unless he was communicating with somebody else pertaining to what Mark, and like, hey, you know what I'm saying? But you don't just press a button and these phones are so sensitive, shit get deleted. That doesn't happen. You have to trigger several things for it to delete.
For now, however, they listen to Jamie and others tell them that for all of his eccentricities, killing a man seems wildly out of character for Mark.
I never thought he would ever be capable of anything like this.
I don't know. I don't know. This is not his personality. I can't see Mark hurting a thing. I just don't see it. I've never seen him bone in his body.
There was nothing that ever would have said he would do anything like this.
Does their disturbed and confused position on Mark's actions only strengthen his story that he was doing an honorable favor for a man in need?
Have you ever been requested in the past to do something that you did to Kevin, where they were down or they wanted to end their life? Have you ever assisted?
No, there have been people who have hinted at it.
Okay.
There have been people who, just kind of play around with it a little bit. But I've always, that I've shied away from it for obvious reasons.
Okay. Have you taken the life of anybody else? I'm speaking
to my knowledge, no.
Okay. What do you mean to your knowledge?
No, I have not taken anybody. I'm telling you, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
But for as much as the detectives may want to believe that, there are reasons to think otherwise. Starting with the incident from November where a panicked man in a kilt was running in fear from his home. But even that was not an isolated occurrence, as police soon found out. Looking through their own reports, they see a call a man made in October, not far from where Mark lives. The man says he was picked up from the Greyhound terminal in Flint by an unknown individual that he intended to spend the night with. However, that night he woke up restrained in the basement of the man's house. Terrified, he used a nearby knife to cut himself free before fleeing the house in a state of panic. When he got far enough away, he called police. But
you want me to tell you, Mark fucked up that time. Fucked up the time in November. He made sure he didn't fuck up in December. First time, dude got away. We don't know when Mark found out he got away.
Yeah.
Second time, he tried to chase the guy down.
Yeah.
Third time, he said and he said third time's the charm.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you.
Nope. Which is something he's been wanting to do. He's been trying and trying.
And people been able to escape. And he was not finna let Kevin leave.
That's sad.
And if you pay attention, October, November.
But the strange thing about this incident, as police will only learn in the aftermath of Kevin's death, is that the man from the October report is actually the same New York friend that Mark sent that cryptic text to.
Oh, hell no.
Shut up. Shut up. And you talking about, I didn't really think it. I would have thought that it would have been headline. Really? Wow.
On Christmas Eve, I killed Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero. On December 30th, 2 days after the initial interrogation, police questioned Mark about this incident.
This particular time that he was at the house, though, when he was out running away, he claims running away from me because he was scared.
Oh, he says that?
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that.
No.
But
was there a time where you had him held against his will at any point?
No, he had free reign.
It was all consensual.
That was all completely consensual.
When police speak again to the man from New York, he acknowledges that the October incident happened, but indicates that his call to 911 that night had more to do with getting lost on the roads than from wanting to report a crime. He went back to Mark's house.
Two individuals, their house just followed through and with reporting y'all crime. Possibly could have prevented.
And you went back to his house after the fact? What caused you anyway to leave like that?
You was tied up.
Like,
you had to get
real.
a knife.
Like, huh?
Boy, y'all.
On the roads than from wanting to report a crime. He went back to Mark's house willingly and stayed for an additional few days. Even so, the similarities between these stories cannot be ignored, and they cast some degree of doubt as to whether Kevin's death was the mercy killing that Mark is making it out to be. Further complicating the situation is a text Mark sent to his husband Jamie in the early morning hours on December 25th. A message about bringing bacon over for the gathering, but warning, it's not the kind you like.
Of course, I mentioned something about coming over for breakfast, and then he said, like what you told me, that about the bacon, and yes, I do remember, it seemed like there was something said in a text message about bacon, and you wouldn't like it, and that's really all.
Did you respond to that?
Not that I remember.
Besides, I know there's some conversations, about the bacon thing, and of course the victim's name is Kevin Bacon. That would upset me, seeing something like that. Is that how you kind of take it now?
No, not until you just mentioned it. I never even put the two together.
Okay.
Did you know the victim's name was Kevin? You had to.
I
We talked
knew
about it in the interview.
after the interview, yes. But I didn't even think, like text messages, when you said about the bacon, it's like, and I never put bacon and bacon as.
The fact that Jamie accidentally deleted all of his messages with Mark makes pinpointing the specifics of the conversation more difficult, but not, as Jamie seems to understand, impossible.
But I knew that there's no way, from what I've been told, with computers, which an iPhone is nothing more than a computer, you can never delete. everything. Nothing is permanently deleted.
Indeed,
Not
it
with an
isn't
apple.
long before the police get a first-hand look at the message Mark sent to Jamie that night. It says, among other things, "I had bacon for dinner last night." The word bacon is capitalized. It's an extraordinarily suspicious message, considering Mark's insistence that this killing was done with solemnity and the utmost respect for human dignity. But that suspicion can only turn into abject horror when one realizes fully what Mark did after killing Kevin that night.
He must have a lot of respect for his ex-husband.
What made you say that?
Because he's around him so much and he never, like, tries to do anything. It's like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what he had planned for the days ahead.
And it was then that I started to do what I told him I was going to do. I was going to eat part of him. And I did. It was the new moon. And honoring my word to what I said I would do.
Mark's word in this instance extended to castrating the now deceased Kevin Bacon.
Was that his wishes? Is that the main reason why you did it?
It was the discussion, like wherever, whatever is consumable is consumable. So I said, I will eat you, and he says, okay.
How'd you do that? Did you cook them? Did you? Where did you do that? I mean,
on the kitchen stove.
Like with a frying pan.
It was the griddle, and I mean I eat Rocky Mountain oysters anyway.
Sure.
I have a carton of them that I had bought, and so it's really very simple. You slice them thin, you saute them with some Worcestershire sauce, and once they're done, you just eat them.
Mark describes this part of the evening's activities with the same chilling calm that he described the rest of it. And it turns out that this late-night snack was only the beginning of his deranged intentions.
The other portions were going to be a jerky and the like. I mean, I didn't know that at the time, and so afterwards, and in fact, I mean, yesterday, maybe it was, depends on what day it is now.
Now Saturday morning.
But I just ordered a dehydrator so that, so that, I mean, I said not knowing, just so that I could continue to process the way and do what he wanted me to do.
So you would have taken more of his body and put it in the dehydrator?
Absolutely.
A couple of days later, the police intercept a package from Amazon that was headed for Mark's address. Inside, they indeed find a Magic Mill food dehydrator. But that's only one aspect of the comprehensive plans he made for Kevin's remains.
His internals were going to go out back, and I was going to put the peach pits in them. And then the rest of them, I have the chestnut that are in the refrigerator, and I had been meaning to plant them before, but really never had anything that to grow them with. I was going to drop the chestnuts into a portion of them. There's a pile of mulch out back. I was just going to cover them with mulch.
You're going to cover the bones with mulch?
No, not the bones. I was just going to take the internal gut portions and get rid of it, so that they were each growing things. The muscle portion was going to go into the dehydrator that I purchased after, yesterday, or it's going to be delivered on Monday. Because that was, that came out of the discussion. So I didn't have anything, planned for it at that point. And then I was just going to crush up the bones into bone meal, and then see if,
Seasoning.
What?
Seasoning, is that what you said?
No, grind them up into bone meal, and take the bone meal and pair them with tulip bulbs, and figure out some way to, just have them appear somewhere.
To the very end, Mark sticks to his original story, that this was a benevolent act meant only to fulfill Kevin's own wishes. But that story has some holes, starting with those earlier incidents where men he held captive had to escape and call the police.
He never asked to leave, and you had him chained up in the basement? Well,
there's also the matter of the trip to Walmart Mark made to purchase the knife. This wasn't a purchase made 6 months ago, or even 6 weeks ago. Mark bought that knife on Christmas Eve, only a few short hours before he plunged it into the back of Kevin's neck. But perhaps most damning is the fact that police have the chat between Mark and Kevin from the dating app. And while Mark goes into a great deal of explicit detail regarding the plans he has, neither he nor Kevin mention anything about the night ending in Kevin's demise.
You guys find Mark?
Which is true. Y'all would have been communicated with about all that.
Because I would have felt like that wouldn't have just been over messages.
Yeah.
I mean, verbal, like face to face. I felt like it would have been in messages as well.
And y'all wouldn't have talked about necessarily. It wouldn't have just came up that night.
That's what he's like. Oh, it's just like he just thought about it. Well, if my thing is,
if that's
that could have been the case because y'all met at Dollar Tree store, whatever, and you already told him, leave your clothes here, leave your stuff here. That would have already been planned, right? So y'all would have already talked about that. I don't know if y'all talked on the phone or not, or y'all just strictly talked messages. Don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's the case, if it's just messages, nothing of that was mentioned. So I do wonder if that's even true, like how you said that went down. And you left everything there, or did you at some point
take everything back?
And then catch a
no.
No.
He picked them up. He picked them up from there.
Yeah.
But also, like you said, what's that Kevin first time even going over there? Because like you said, he likes to. Because the first guy, you even went back.
What? But that seemed like, I don't know, but just from the short, brief, like, throwing it seemed like that was his first time going over there because
he's from New York.
He picked him up from the Greyhound, so that was his first time. The other guy, he did say he had been over there a couple times before, but
Kevin's only 20 minutes away.
Yeah, so it's possible that it wasn't his.
I would like
first time, but I would like to know that those details.
Latunski out there with black hair and black eyes. And as a cripple, I want to know where he is.
But that's not going to be the main priority of the police or the prosecutors. They arrest Mark David Latunski for 1 count of open murder and 1 count of disinterment and mutilation of a dead body. As for Mark's estranged husband, Jamie, the police asked him to take a polygraph test and concluded that he had nothing whatsoever to do with the crime.
And again, I'll just ask you again, you had nothing to do with this. You had no knowledge of Kevin being at the house, Kevin Bacon, what?
Because he even went over to your house afterwards, and he said he still had the blood on him.
I mean, but where it's at, I guess you wouldn't have seen it.
But also they went to the gym together.
Did you go into a separate stall and change, or did you just wear what you had on? I think, like I said, all this is so strange.
They have long sleeves on.
Yeah.
He never told you what he did to him, nothing.
No, I think this is awful. I think I can't.
What would you have done had you been told or made aware of this prior to?
If I had known what had happened, I would have come to the police.
In September of 2022, roughly 3 years after his arrest, Mark Latunski pleaded guilty to murder and the mutilation of a dead body. Following a trial in December 2022, Mark was sentenced to life without parole for 1 count of first-degree murder and 11 months for 1 count of disinterment of a dead body. Mark is currently serving the sentence at Gus Harrison Correctional Facility in Michigan.
Do you think a prison cell is best for him?
Honestly, I kind of hate those questions. You ask me a lot, because I'm not a doctor. I don't understand. I don't know when they like have like sit these people down and they like do like the tests and stuff. I do know he was diagnosed with, but we have a lot of people in prison that's diagnosed with certain things or whatever the case may be.
And the outcome of some of those situations are not
right.
Nice.
So with him, I don't.
Because they're in prison, they're a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
Most people who do commit crimes and stuff while in prison, they, and they can't be around a lot, you know what I'm saying? So they need to be in more, but you can't do that in a prison.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I feel like he most definitely should be in a facility somewhere. I don't think somebody was like that's just so out of touch with reality like him. Prison probably would tick him off, and he could be harm to the other inmates.
Yeah, but that's in a facility. He can be harmed to other people that's in there as well.
But I feel like they can do more and be more
medicated,
more well prepared to handle and understand the signs. And COs in prisons aren't taught. There's not theirs.
Yeah, I got you.
You know how many mentally ill inmates like brutally kill their cellmates? And how my mom describes certain scenes that she saw. It ain't like just it's blood all over the place.
Yeah.
Blood all over them.
Yeah, I feel you. But rest in peace to Kevin, though.
Yeah, didn't deserve that at all. He went over just to have a good old time, and that happened.
Yeah,
and he never going back home. Damn. Y'all spam us up in the comments, man. Let us know y'all thoughts about it for us in the comment section down below. But until next time, y'all know how it go, man. I do go by the name DJ New Kid. This is We Are. We Are.
Time to kick it, got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar, 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 dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar, 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 dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money low.